Hey, y'all, it's executive producer Sonia Cho Swanson. And guess what? New season, new rules. Fall restrictions are in effect September through October. That means grass can only be watered 3 days a week. And yes, it's the law. Don't miss a beat. Change your watering clock now. Trees and plants, they need less water, just a recommended 2 days a week with drip irrigation. Visit snwa.com to find your assigned watering days and tips to maintain a healthy landscape. SNWA is a not-for-profit water agency.
This year, the movie Showgirls turns 30. And at first, it was pretty panned, but it's recently come back as a cult classic, and not just for the infamous naughty naughty bits. Today on CityCast Las Vegas, local-based film critic Josh Bell of the Awesome Movie Year podcast joins us for a totally serious and not at all cheeky conversation about the vital history and lasting impact of perhaps the goofiest film ever made about our city, Showgirls. It's Monday, September 22nd. I'm David Figler, and here's what Las Vegas is talking about. Josh Bell, what is the best movie about Las Vegas made in Las Vegas, and why is it Showgirls?
It is not Showgirls.
What?
And thank you for allowing me to watch this movie again, the number one thing that I always wanted to do with my time. But I have to say, I am not one of the people who has come around to being a fan of this movie. I am a fan of its existence, and I do think it is one of the top maybe 5 to 10 movies in terms of influence and importance about Las Vegas. But it's at times an endurance test to get through, I think.
Okay, but if you make it through to the other end, Josh, I'm telling you, it was worth the journey. So I think I know what the answer is, but if I were to give you the traditional 5-star rating model, how many stars does Showgirls get in your mind?
I give it 2 stars, which is honestly, I feel kind of generous and more generous than the vast majority of critics were to this movie when it was released in 1995, because I can recognize there's a level of filmmaking craft here from Paul Verhoeven, the director, and there is some effort to perhaps make a statement or have a kind of artistic vision. I don't think it comes together. I think the people who see so much in this movie are really reaching, but it's far better than, for example, Showgirls 2.
Yeah, and we might even mention the sequel, but I doubt it because I have watched both. The sequel to Showgirls doesn't register in the top 500 films about Las Vegas, and I don't know if there were even 500 made. But I am somebody who does reach for the stars on Showgirls, and I give it 5 out of 5. I do in many ways give it all those stars just for the fact that they pulled off a train wreck that I can intellectually justify, even as I am both love hating it and hate loving it at the same time. So I think we've established now that Showgirls is a polarizing film. But for those who haven't seen Showgirls, can you give us a very quick plot summary? This is going to be good.
Plot summary of Showgirls.
Yes, sir. Yes.
Everyone's watching this movie for the plot. It's a classic kind of Hollywood rise and fall story. It's heavily influenced by All About Eve, the Betty Davis classic. Mm-hmm. It stars Elizabeth Berkley as Nomi Malone, or is that her real name? A sort of drifter who comes into Las Vegas with grand ambitions. She starts dancing at what is depicted in the movie. It's Cheetahs, the exotic dancing club, the gentleman's club, but they call it the Cheetah for some reason throughout the film. Even though
might be a copyright thing, I don't know.
You can see the sign. You can see the sign that says Cheetahs in the movie. Anyway, she starts as an exotic dancer, and then she gets cast in this kind of Jubilee-esque show called Goddess, where she is going to take out her rival / possible lover, Crystal Connors, the big star, the Betty Davis figure here, played by Gina Gershon. And it doesn't go exactly as she hopes, but she learns, she grows, and so do we.
Does she grow?
No, she doesn't grow, nor does she learn.
Frankly, if I were to give it just one line of what this movie is, it's about somebody with extreme anger issues who tries to reinvent themselves, but kind of falls back to their natural way.
Yeah, Nomi is the worst.
It is basically all about Eve, which, let us not forget, was an Academy Award-winning Best Picture. All 4 of the women leads, I think for the first time ever, were all nominated. Many won. It won a slew of Oscars. And this is basically the same plot.
And I will say, I'm on the record, I love All About Eve. One of my favorite Bette Davis movies. Brilliant film.
Am I way off?
Quotable lines.
Am I way off? I mean,
no, the plot is definitely following along those lines. But just because you copied the plot of a classic movie doesn't mean that you made a new classic movie. There are many examples that would counterexamples for that, I would say. So, but no, you're right. And I think it is self-consciously doing that Joe Esterhaas, the writer, and Paul Verhoeven, the director, very much want you to think of All About Eve and those classic Hollywood stories, A Star is Born, things like that. They do want to make a new version of that, and maybe thought that they did and thought that it would have that same enduring quality. And it does have its own enduring quality, but perhaps not the one that they intended initially.
Yeah.
And certainly it did not get the response that something like All About Eve did at the time. It was up for many Razzies, I believe, but not any Oscars.
Yeah. And it did get a lot of response at the time, probably for a lot of reasons, and I want to get into them. Maybe most noteworthy was that this was the first sort of adult role for Elizabeth Berkley, who played the main character, Nomi Malone. People knew her from Saved by the Bell. And, Josh, there's like a conspiracy theory out there on the internet that this is the same universe of Saved by the Bell, and her character from high school going through, like, there's a famous episode where she got hooked on pills and just started singing, I'm so excited, and that girl, through some very tragic decisions, wound up as Nomi Malone with a new name in Las Vegas.
I mean, whatever you need to tell yourself in order to get through the movie is fine with me. But there are many, many elements of the plot that contradict that idea when we find out Nomi's true background.
Well, maybe. Maybe we just didn't know the true background of her character on Saved by the Bell. But let's switch the gear a little bit. I mean, look, even you, Josh Bell, Josh who hates everything, said, top 10 films as far as influence, that were made in Las Vegas, about Las Vegas, and a lot of the interior and exterior shots are from Las Vegas. So let's just ask this question. Should people who are interested in Las Vegas, local or visitor alike, should they watch Showgirls, and will they get something out of it?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, if you are interested in Vegas history, if you're interested in Vegas cinema, if you are interested, as I always very much am, in the sort of way that Vegas is mythologized on screen, and the way that the overall kind of body of work of cinema about Las Vegas creates this fantasy version of the city that we all sometimes kind of wish that we lived in. Yeah, of course. And I do appreciate that, unlike a lot of Vegas movies, it does, as you say, have a lot of material that was shot locally that you can see if you live here, that there are things real. I mean, some of them are not here anymore, but real locations, real places that were here. So yeah, I mean, you put it up there in terms of influence and its enduring pop culture presence with things like Casino, Leaving Las Vegas, which, by the way, both of those came out within 2 months of this film. Amazing period for Vegas cinema in 1995.
Well, yes. And let's not leave out the other amazing film about Las Vegas that came out in 1995, Leprechaun 3.
Which I would say I have seen probably an equal number of times to how many times I've seen Showgirls, and vastly prefer.
Oh,
also has
God.
Some weird sexual things going on in it as well.
But a lot of that was soundstage. I don't think a lot of that was actually filmed in Vegas.
There are exteriors that they
Yeah.
shot like on Fremont Street and stuff.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, all the interiors there were shot on a soundstage. We can do our whole Leprechaun 3 episode soon and really get into the details on that.
Maybe later in the year. The Beverly shows it every year on St. Patrick's Day, as they should.
Learning a new language opens the door to new friends, new cultures, maybe even a whole new life. So why not start that journey today? I'm CityCast CEO David Plotz, and I'm learning Spanish with Babbel. Babbel's conversation-based technique quickly teaches you useful words and phrases about the things you actually talk about in the real world. I've been practicing my Spanish with Babbel's AI conversation partner. I can choose my conversation topic and have a real-time dialogue. It's great at helping me think on my feet, and it's improving my pronunciation. Also, it's really easy to do anytime on my phone using Babbel's excellent mobile app. It's just one of the many fantastic Babbel tools for learning. Plus, Babbel has a real-time feedback, progress trackers, and handy visualizations, all of which make it really easy to stay motivated to learn. I want you to learn another language. So CityCast is teaming up with Babbel to gift you 55% off subscriptions, but only for our listeners at babbel.com/citycast. Get up to 55% off at babbel.com/citycast. Spelled BABBEL.com/citycast. Babbel.com/citycast. Rules and restrictions may apply.
Why do you think Hollywood was so obsessed with Vegas in 1995? I mean, let's not forget there was a little film called Swingers on deck for release the next year, too.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting, though, because I'm not sure Hollywood was obsessed with Vegas. Like, those three particular movies, this, Casino, and Leaving Las Vegas, are absolutely all in that pantheon of influential, important Vegas movies, but they all approached it entirely differently. This is a Hollywood movie. Casino is a Hollywood movie. Leaving Las Vegas is an independent production that had a small budget and barely got made. It was based on a novel that I think had been, there had been an effort for a while to get that made. And Casino is based on a true story. So I don't know. And as much as this is an essential Vegas movie, and I do appreciate that they shot so much here, I am not entirely sure that Joe Esterhaas and Paul Verhoeven were all that interested in Las Vegas. I think they were interested in showbiz. They were interested in Hollywood. They were interested in All About Eve and A Star Is Born. And they thought that this would be the place to do it. And were not super concerned about the authenticity of Vegas, but how they could mold Vegas to tell the story they wanted to tell.
Yeah, I mean, it is sort of, at least to me, and maybe I am intellectualizing this a little too much because I do enjoy multiple screenings of this film, that it is a sort of satire on the perception and place of Las Vegas as ground zero of the American dream and all the stuff that it got twisted into in the mid-90s, maybe fame and fabulousness and all that. And, Vegas was the perfect canvas to put that upon.
Yeah, I mean, I've heard that assessment many times, and I don't, to me, and I'm obviously my whole job is to think about and analyze this kind of stuff in film, and I feel like it's a lot of a reach to see that, especially if you watch other Paul Verhoeven films that do it much more effectively. Watch RoboCop, watch Total Recall, watch Starship Troopers. I mean, these are all big sci-fi action movies, but the satire is so much more, it's so much sharper, it's so much more clever. And I don't doubt that Verhoeven wanted to do more than just show naked ladies. I think Joe Esterhaas probably just wanted to show naked ladies, but I do think that Paul Verhoeven has a grander ambition than that. I don't see it in the movie itself so much.
One thing you said, Josh, and it really strikes me, and I'm going to put this another point in favor of Showgirls, is that, very much like a documentary, this movie does capture moments in time in 1995 Las Vegas with so many shots that were done here that and like you said, places that don't exist anymore, that it's important for just doing that, documenting what this city was at that time. And I'm wondering if you have any favorite Vegas-centric shots or scenes that are in Showgirls from 1995 that you were kind of glad to see upon your reviewing of it.
I mean, it's nice. It's nice to see the Riviera, of course, and the Stardust, both of which are no longer with us. So that's fun. I was looking at sometimes it's hard to tell, is this a Vegas place or is this a recreation? Especially because I moved to Las Vegas in 1995, so I don't have super strong memories of everything.
Oh, this movie is for you. Is there anything that Showgirls, from your perspective, I know that authenticity wasn't an apparent goal of this film, but is there anything that they did get right about Las Vegas?
I mean, there's those locations. And I mean, there's aspects of Goddess that do feel like a real Las Vegas show. I think I only ever saw Jubilee once. And I don't
Goddess
remember.
was the name of the big show at the Stardust Hotel that, she headlined.
Yeah, and it's definitely modeled after that kind of stuff, or with a little bit of other elements. There was one scene where they're riding motorcycles around, and I thought it was kind of like when we used to have Starlight Express here, which I did see, I think, as a kid. There were no topless ladies in Starlight Express, but it was all about like wheels and motion and stuff like that. So it felt like a relatively authentic show. It felt more like an authentic show than, say, the show in The Last Showgirl in the recent film to me, which is much more grounded and real, supposedly.
Supposedly.
So, I mean, I bought into that.
I take that, what they were trying to do with Showgirls was a very intentionally tourist-based version of what life in that city must be like.
Of course.
I've always said that our story is not just told by us, those of us who persevere and live here, but by the perception of those who come and visit here, because they outnumber us by 20-fold,
Absolutely. And that's what I think I find so fascinating about so many of these Vegas films, and what I was saying before about the mythological version of the city that is created via these films and TV shows, because almost entirely they are created for an audience that isn't here, by people who aren't from here, don't live here, maybe spend a tiny bit of time here, but they make Vegas what it is in the eyes of the nation and the world. And I don't think that that's a bad thing entirely. I know it's common, we complain as locals, like, oh, they drove from this street to that street and those streets don't connect, or this wasn't realistic or that wasn't realistic. And fine, okay, sure. But there's a greater goal than realism to it. And especially this is a movie like that. I mean, there's other movies where you were talking about just the sort of time capsule. There's some much, much worse movies than this that you can watch Vegas-wise from, going all the way back to the 50s. And the only reason to watch that is to see things that were here then, is for the authenticity.
Yeah,
but this movie is not for that.
I look at the original Ocean's 11 in a lot of ways like that as well, because it's not a great film, but it's a great, fun film to watch.
Yeah.
You did mention the more recent film, The Last Showgirl with Pamela Anderson, and that received a far, far better reception. And I'm taking it from your tone that you sort of did buy into that, whereas I didn't. And I prefer Showgirls to it. So, tell me how they compare to each other and why one grabs you and the other one really doesn't.
Well, I was mixed on The Last Showgirl, and I think it's entirely fair for you to say that Showgirls grabs you more, because Showgirls has more of that showmanship. And The Last Showgirl, I think Gia Coppola, the director, is trying so hard to not be Showgirls, to not be that flashiness, that she drains too much of it out, and it's too gritty in a way, but in a fake way sometimes. I mean, there's definite real emotion in that film. There's some good performances, and it does have something to say about Las Vegas and about the image of Las Vegas. On the flip side, here is this icon of Vegas that we all think of in part because of Showgirls, the movie, and that's on its last legs and that's dying. And how does that reflect where the city is? So I probably had a more, I don't even know if I want to say rewarding experience. It was easier for me to get through The Last Showgirl, which is also shorter. But I think it's entirely fair to find that movie too dour and also missing the point in a different way than Showgirls misses the point.
Interesting. Yeah, I thought that their attempt at getting authenticity fell so short that it was far more of a glaring error on the part of the filmmakers, whereas the filmmakers here, I don't think the filmmakers here had any delusion that they were creating an authentic Las Vegas. I mean, theirs was a Las Vegas of smarmy characters and flashing lights and, everything elevated to melodramatic humor or tragedy, including the sex scenes, especially those notoriously in the pool and in the back room of the strip club and all those other places. How did this film even get made?
I mean, I don't know all the particulars. I mean, I think they're all out there, and it's like many movies in Hollywood. I think it was a whole bunch of different sources of financing and probably nearly fell apart a million times. But I'm sure one of the main reasons that this movie did get made is because Joe Eszterhas and Paul Verhoeven made Basic Instinct a few years before this. And that was such a huge hit and a huge sensation. Not only did it make a lot of money, but it generated tons of controversy. it was generally acclaimed, that movie, as opposed to this one, but it also had a lot of people very much vehemently against it. And I think a studio probably looked at that and thought, we can do that again with this. And they had a lot of clout at that point. But even then, I think they faced challenges. And, we didn't say this is an NC-17 rated movie, which is even now a very rare thing. And that was something that they had to fight for. It kept it out of certain movie theaters. Yeah. And so certainly it wasn't an easy road, I'm sure they would say. But I think that the success of Basic Instinct had a huge deal to do with it.
Yeah, and of course, the most success that this film got at the time was, like you said, the Golden Razzie Award, which Verhoeven, the director, actually showed up to receive, and I think he was the first to ever do that. And I think that does say a lot about, the motive behind this film and what, they were or weren't trying to accomplish. But I want to end it this way, Josh. I mean, what do you think that future films based on or filmed in Las Vegas can learn from the movie Showgirls upon its 30th anniversary?
Well, I mean, I think you can learn that it's okay not to be realistic. I do think that that's fine. I think that if you have an idea and Las Vegas is sort of this symbolic location, that's great. And we love it, or we should love it. I love it. So I think boldness is always good. I mean, and you can't say that this movie isn't bold, that they aren't exactly going for everything that they wanted to go for. I think maybe learn when to be bold and when to kind of dial it down a little bit so that those moments hit more. But also,
yet you like Starship Troopers, which is basically Showgirls without the sequence.
I haven't seen Starship Troopers in a long time. I watched Showgirls the other day. So maybe I would feel differently. I do love RoboCop, though.
I love all those movies that you mentioned. So, great advice. And, they're not going to stop making films in Las Vegas. We're just got that special sauce. And time again, people want to take a dip. Hey, Josh Bell, I really appreciate your insights, and coming here on CityCast Las Vegas to talk about a movie that clearly you despise.
Despise is a harsh term, but not a huge fan. But thank you very much for the opportunity to talk about it.
And that's all for today here on CityCast Las Vegas. If you enjoyed the show, hey, go tell a friend. You could also rate the show, leave us a review that's nicer than the original reviews of Showgirls, and subscribe to our morning newsletter. Don't forget, you can support this show and get some great perks by becoming a CityCast Las Vegas neighbor at membership.citycast.fm. We'll be back tomorrow morning with more news from around the city. Till then, stay lucky.